Good evening and welcome to Encore with Zoe Ryan. We have a good mix in store for tonight's show, from an opportunity to get your short film funded and premiered at a prestigious film festival, to checking out the Midlands' first ever games cafe, to exploring the art of flower arranging, as well as a bit of music. A little later on, I'll be talking to chef turned pole dancing instructor Savanna Jacqueline about her latest business venture in Offaly. Floral artist Browne of Big Sky Flowers will be joining me to give us a sneak peek of what's in store at her upcoming workshop in Westmeath. And we'll have some music from a singer I discovered at an event in Laois last weekend. But first, if you are a young filmmaker based in the Midlands, you might want to turn the dial up for this. So next year, the ESB are celebrating their 100th anniversary and Dublin International Film Festival their 25th. And to mark the milestone birthdays, the pair have teamed up to give young filmmakers across the country a chance to secure a considerable amount of funding to make a short film which will be premiered at the Dublin International Film Festival in 2027. To tell us all about it and how you can get your hat in the ring is programmer at Dublin International Film Festival, Peggy McHale. Peggy, you are very welcome onto tonight's show.
Hi Zoe, thanks so much for having me.
Peggy, how did this partnership come about? Because it kind of seems like an unlikely pairing.
I know. Basically what happened was last year we were lucky enough to receive funding from the ESB Energy for Generations Fund, which we used to bring 12 early career female filmmakers to DIFF with complimentary tickets to our screenings, to our industry events, and then exclusive one-on-one chats with some of our filmmakers. And it was such a success that we came back to ESB again and said, you know, can we do something else? Can we collaborate again? And we realized we were both celebrating these big birthdays, and we thought, okay, well, let's do something really big. And I think this absolutely fits the bill.
All right. So what's up for grabs then? As I said, it is a considerable amount that is on offer.
Yeah, we have €18,000 available for the winners of this award. So what we're looking for at the moment is script entries from filmmakers based in Ireland, aged 18 to 28, based around this theme of powering possibility. So looking at how electricity and energy enable our everyday lives with connection and creativity, looking to the future and looking at, you know, people, ideas and communities. So 10 of these scripts that are submitted from now until the 21st of July will be selected to do a public pitch. So we're not just looking for these amazing, creative, original stories, but we're looking for, you know, practical thought and people looking at how they're going to use this money and really maximize it to tell this story in the best way possible. So 10 of them will get to pitch to a public audience and a panel of industry professionals. And then one lucky winner will win that 18,000 to make the film in time to world premiere with us at our 25th festival in February 2027.
And it is an amazing opportunity to get that. Like, that is massive for someone who is an up and coming, you know, aspiring artist in the film world, or even someone who's been doing it for a while, to get it in front of an audience of that size.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic experience for everyone, regardless of how much filmmaking you may or may not have done previously. It's a really, really great learning experience to kind of take a script from this initial idea stage, put it up, have it selected by the first panel of industry professionals, and then really have to think about, you know, how you're going to get this project made, because that's a skill that you'll take forward through the rest of your career, to kind of say, I know how to not just look at a project creatively, but practically, and build a team around it, and then deliver to a timeline, to a festival level, which is, you know, something we're always encouraging our filmmakers to do. We really try and support early career filmmakers. So this kind of plays in that we're trying to teach people, trying to highlight, trying to platform every year.
And there is kind of more opportunities involved with it as well. So as you said, you've got that deadline is coming up the 21st of July. So next month you have the deadline for scripts is coming in. They're going to be shortlisted. Then you mentioned about there's going to be a pitch. So you're getting that experience as well of pitching in front of a group of people. But there's also going to be mentoring sessions involved. Tell me a little bit about those.
Yeah, so everybody who is shortlisted for the pitch, so the 10 teams who are selected for that stage, will all receive pitch training around the 15th of September, because we're aware that, you know, this is aimed at the 18 to 28 age group, and some people might have more experience than others. So everyone who gets shortlisted will have the opportunity to learn for this project and for other projects that they might have at any time in the future, the right way to go about that, to give them the best possible opportunity and, you know, give us the best version of their project. And then the successful team after the pitch stage, we'll have up to 3 sessions with an industry professional, which will kind of build around the project. We'll make sure that it's someone who really fits their vision so that they can have this one-on-one training with someone who's been there before, who knows how to do these kinds of projects, how to deliver them, and they can get that extra bit of help and training to make sure that it's a smooth process.
And Peggy, what role is it that you're going to play in the festival? Obviously, at the moment, it's all about the organisation of it. But what's your role going to be in and around the time of it when the films are actually all being premiered?
Well, I'm delighted that as a programmer with the festival, I'll be across all of the screenings that we have. So I'll probably at that point, for most filmmakers, including our lucky winners of this competition, I'll be there to hold their hand a little bit, metaphorically, and take them through it. I feel like at that point I'll be able to tell them what the premiere is going to be like, and make sure that they're all happy. Once the programmers get to the point where the schedule is public and locked, it's kind of just the best part of our job, really, because we get to bring these filmmakers in and help. We've sold the tickets, we've promoted it as much as possible. Yeah. It's going to be a huge event in the festival with ESB, so it's going to be really, really special for them to celebrate all their hard work. And myself and the rest of the programming team will just be there to support them and maximize that potential. Because whoever is lucky enough to win this, that is something they can take forward as an example. So we're going to make sure that they have everything they need to kind of have it as a really amazing key point on their CV and their portfolio going forward.
And how was it that you came to this line of work?
I was very lucky. It was a similar enough initiative. DIFF started an internship in 2023,
okay.
And I was right out of college, and I applied, and I was lucky enough to get it. And then after a year with them, I went back to college. But after a couple of months, they brought me back to run the events program.
Fantastic.
And then the following year, I was lucky enough to land the permanent programmer position.
So Peggy, give us those all-important dates again, and I suppose any tips and tricks you'd say for anybody who does want to get that submission in of what to include in it to make them stand out.
Absolutely. So the first stage is in some ways an easy one. 21st of July, you need to have your script. Now, I would say absolutely aim for the stars with this one, be as creative as possible, really think about that power and possibility theme. All we'll need at this submission stage is the script emailed to projects@diff.ie along with proof of date of birth. So that can be a scan of your passport or your driver's license or something, just to make sure that you do in fact fit into our age range of 18 to 28. And then once those submissions are closed, we're going to go away and do our shortlist. To select those 10. So I think it's important for people to think at this stage that if they are successful, they will have to go forward in October to that pitching stage. So as much as we want the top creativity from everybody, there will be a practical element. There is a budget. It's a sizable budget, but it is, practical at the end of the day. We want the film to be made so we can show it. So do kind of have that in the back of your mind. And even, if people are at that stage, think about start building your team. Who would you want on it? You can consult with those people, call people who might have more experience with you if this is earlier in time in your career that you're maybe not as sure what that budget could mean or what you can do with it. Call anyone you need to try and feed into that so that you can make this script as enticing as possible for us to put you forward.
Peggy, I really appreciate you taking my call this evening.
Thank you so much, Zoe.
And as Peggy said there, you can find full details of the ESB Short Film Award on Dublin International Film Festival's website, DIFF, that is DIFF.ie, and they actually have a full section on the site dedicated to it. So plenty of information there, as well as what Peggy's after running through. Up next, I'll be telling you about my experience as a judge at a Battle of the Bands competition. Midlands 103. You are listening to Encore with Zoe Ryan on Midlands 103, here with you until 8 p.m. Now, from one competition to another, last weekend I had the privilege of sitting on the judges panel at a Battle of the Bands competition held in Dunamaze Arts Centre in Portlaoise, living out my Jack Black School of Rock fantasies, of course. And the prize up for grabs was a place in the lineup at Forest Fest Music Festival in Emo next month. An incredible opportunity for up-and-coming artists to showcase their work and perform in front of a crowd of that scale. But I was so impressed by the standard of performers who took to the stage, all playing original music. Now, the group that nabbed the top spot were a band called The Gall, which I would recommend you look into. They had such a unique sound. But another musician who caught my attention was a Carlow-based singer-songwriter called Becca Mitchell. Here she is with her latest single, Smoker's Cough. That was Becca Mitchell with her really cleverly written song Smoker's Cough, which you can find on Spotify along with other tracks from her EP Heartsick. As I said, I discovered Becca at a Battle of the Bands event last weekend, but if you are looking for something to do this weekend, the Nomad Players are bringing their production of My Name is Lucy Barton to Burr Theatre and Arts Centre this Saturday, June 13th. I actually spoke with the pair ahead of their opening performance in Esker Arts a couple of weeks ago, which you can listen back to on the podcast section of the Midlands 103 website if you want to know more about the storyline and the Nomad Players' work in general. But coincidentally, the author of the book the play's based on, American novelist Elizabeth Strout, was in Ireland last weekend at the Bards Festival of Literature. But if you prefer to see it acted out, which would be my preference, you can see Ailish and Maeve of the Nomad Players bring My Name is Lucy Barton to the stage on Saturday night in Burr. Still to come, Encore on Tour is back. Midlands 103. It is Zoe Ryan bringing you the best of what's happening locally in the line of arts, culture and entertainment, including the opening of a new recreational space in Tullamore. Now, in most towns across the Midlands, what you can do or where you can go after 5 p.m. is limited. Sure, there are pubs, restaurants, leisure centres, but outside of food, drink and fitness, your options are limited. Well, a lady looking to give people a space to gather without alcohol being involved or a membership required is Savanna Jacqueline. Earlier this week I called down to her new Boards Games Cafe located in Laurel Plaza, nestled between Church Street and Market Square in Tullamore, to check out what the Bards Rest has to offer.
Hello, how are you? This is very eccentric, I like it.
Savannah, the Bards Rest. Tell me a bit about it and why you felt Tullamore needed a space like this.
So originally I'm from Galway and I've always been into kind of the nerdy side of things. Galway has a cafe there called Dungeons and Donuts, which is kind of the same vibe. And when I moved out here, I just kind of lost all that part of my interests, I suppose. And I was just like, okay, I could maybe do something with that. And I thought on it for a couple of years, but no proper space was coming up like for what I wanted, because I really wanted a space that was accessible from the ground floor, so people didn't have to go up the stairs and everything. So yeah, eventually this came up in January and I wasn't even thinking about it at that point, but I was like, I need to actually go for it now.
The location is something that I did want to talk to you about because in one way, it seems like an unusual space. This is down an alley that all of the shops that are in it now are gone. Do you know, so no one has been in here, this space, for a long time. It's probably got a name as kind of a little dodgy, little arcade type of an area because there hasn't been in anything for so long. But then at the same time, I thought for what you're trying to build, which is that little secret space, it's an ideal location as well.
It is. And actually so far this weekend, that's been a big comment that we've had from people that came in. They're like, oh, it's so cool that it's down an alleyway. And again, I don't think that would suit every type of business, but considering I can just open the gates whenever we're open, it suits for me. Like for the weekend, I just opened the gates on both sides, and it was like people that didn't know about the space were kind of like, wait, there's a lane here? And I had a lot of people coming in going, I didn't even know this place existed. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't either until it came up, because I'm only 6 years in Tullamore. And pretty much the entire time I've been here, I've never seen the gates open. This space was like a dog groomer's before. It was very different to how it looks now. But it had been sitting vacant for so long that the owner was happy for me to come in and just completely change it, which was good for me because I wanted to create this kind of dark tavern style space just so it was like cozy. But it's nice to maybe bring a bit of life to the area and get something going.
And in a way then, do you think that the location is going to maybe act as a hindrance, in that you're obviously off the beaten track a little bit on a street that's off the main street, then you're in this kind of arcade alleyway, so for want of a better phrase, you're probably not going to get a lot of passing trade. But is that kind of what you're looking for? You're looking for it to be a space that people know about it, that people have looked into it, and they're specifically seeking you out rather than passing trade?
So mostly yes. Like what I've found is similar to myself. I was looking for somewhere like this. And anyone that's into gaming, you know, tabletop, whichever, they're going to be looking for these spaces. Every time I travel, one of the first things I look up is like board game store, because I'm like, I wonder is there anything around here, comic book store, whichever, and I'll go to wherever that is just because I want to see what it's like there. So I think for the most part, yes, I'm just going to get people that have found me online, particularly we had one video on TikTok that went very popular. Like it has like 50,000 views or something. And so many people that I've just passed in the street even have been like, I've seen you on TikTok.
Nice.
So I think for like that side of things, social media is going to be like the main way people find it. And I think just the odd few people might notice that we're here passing on a Friday or Saturday evening, you know?
Yeah. We're sitting here now at one of the custom built tables, and behind you I can see a whole array of games. So tell me how it all works. Someone comes into the cafe and talk me through how the night goes.
Okay, so we do a mixture of like booking online and then also people just like dropping in. At the moment, I do what's called a short rest. A short rest is when you heal up briefly.
Okay.
So that's why I kind of wanted to bring that side of the nerdy things into it. And a long rest is when people are here for the night. So the short rest is €15. You come in, that's like per person. They have access to free tea and coffee for the whole night or however long they're there, and access to any of the games that we have. So it's just a pay for time. That's how I wanted to do it. I didn't want people to feel rushed or anything like that. Like I wanted to create like a long enough time even for the shortest option that you are going to get a nice game in. And what I found this weekend in the opening is that people are just paying to stay longer because they're still going in the game after 2 hours and they're like, oh, I want to stay. I had one table Saturday evening of 6 people that stayed for the whole 6 hours. Wow. But that is like, when you're interested in something, that is kind of what happens. But yeah, I found so far at least that method has worked well. People can just chill. They can take a coffee whenever they want, tea whenever they want, and bring in their own snacks as well for the moment anyways, and just have a nice time.
And you mentioned that it's kind of geared at people who I suppose would maybe be playing these games, but they're looking for just communal space to do it with other people. So can people bring their own games? Is that welcomed? Or is it that you choose from the selection that's on offer here?
Yeah, so both is okay. That's like a common question that I've got asked as well is like, can I bring my own game in? And that's absolutely fine. I just wanted to supply as much as I could, but I know that people have their very specific games that they enjoy. Or I've had a lot of people this weekend bring in their like Magic the Gathering card collection and play Magic the Gathering in here. Okay. I've had a lot of questions about D&D, like can we do runs in here, which is absolutely fine. And I've also had a lot of questions about Warhammer, which I don't personally know a lot about, but I do know that it takes up a lot of space. So my plan is to hopefully do particular nights for Warhammer or something like that. But overall, yeah, it's just kind of like a mixture of everything.
And you mentioned there that people can avail free tea and coffee, they can bring their own snacks. You specifically wanted to create a space that maybe was away from the alcohol culture.
Yeah, so this is actually going to be alcohol free. That's how I would prefer it. I'm not much of a drinker myself, but it's kind of sad that there isn't social spaces around to go when you're not a drinker. And I find, especially among younger people, it's becoming more popular to not drink because people are more conscious about their health and everything like that, or into sports or whichever. But you still want that social aspect. So where do you go after 5 p.m. on a Friday? Because again, there's nothing to go to here. I was saying, like, in the town, if you wanted to see your friends after 5 p.m. and you didn't want to drink, your option is the cinema. But it's not sociable. So you're just losing that social aspect. And that's why even in here, I wanted to create not that bright fluorescent like space. I wanted to create that cozy space where you can chill with your friends that's similar to a pub, but you have your tea and coffee instead and just talk to people. This is actually my second business that I run in the town. My other business is fitness based though.
Bit of a change.
Yeah, I know. I kind of go all over the place, but I found in there that there's such good community among people. Like, people have made friends, and it's so hard to make friends in your 30s and your 40s, whatever, you know. I feel like when you're a child, there's so many places to go, so many things to do, and when you get to adulthood and you have this stress, there's actually nowhere to go to relieve that stress. There's fitness spaces, which is what I found, but that is still quite inaccessible to a lot of people for a lot of reasons, whether that is their own capabilities or monetary, because like pole dancing is what like we do in the studio in town, and that is an expensive hobby because we can only take a few amount of people per class. So I wanted to create something that was more affordable for people and also more accessible for people to have community in their life.
How is it that a chef comes to owning a pole dancing business and now opens a game business? Are these quite literally just things that you were like, these were hobbies I had and I found that there was no space to conduct these hobbies in the area, so you set up the businesses? Had you ever set out to be a business owner?
Ooh, okay. Yes, in the sense that I thought I would own a business one day, but I thought it would be a restaurant. The reason that there was such a drastic change is honestly because I moved to Tullamore in December 2019. And I started working for Tullamore Jew as a chef.
Okay.
And they completely shut down during the pandemic. And I just spent all my time pole dancing because I needed to do something. And I started like helping friends online with pole and things like that. So that's how I led to that first business, because once everything kind of started opening up again, I really didn't want to go back into a kitchen. I was just so not used to the environment anymore. And people around here were asking me if I could teach pole. So I just decided to do it just for that reason. I didn't know it was actually going to become a business, but it did. And then this one was like more of a passion, closer to what I originally wanted. So eventually I got to this one.
Talk to me about these tables then. As I said, they're custom made. I can see there's different compartments here. My assumption is that you went for custom made because you were trying to cater for the types of games that could be played on them, and that there wasn't something in the market that was ideal.
Yeah, so this is not the complete table that we're currently sitting at.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually behind us. This one and that one over there are yet to be finished. Okay. But basically what I wanted to do with those is they have a wooden lip around the outside for resting your arms, similar to like a poker table or something like that, but also to keep all the game pieces contained so they're not lost all over the floor. And there's some dice boxes in each corner so they can throw their dice into the boxes, and again, they're nice and contained. They're very popular among gamers, but they can be very expensive to buy. So one of my friends who's a woodworker has helped me to make these, and we put in the LED lights, and that's so people can make a more immersive game, especially for D&D or something like that. They can change the lighting for battle scenes, for more calm parts, whatever. And the lights over every table are also changeable, so that they can create that full experience, and that's the idea.
Everything about this space, even down to the furniture, the signage, it all feels like very much a community effort, that from the offset you were trying to get people involved and for it to be a social outlet. As you said, when your friends made some of the furniture in it, you also got the men's shed involved to help with the interior as well. Talk to me about the idea of getting them involved.
So again, with kind of everything here, I've wanted to get people involved because I really love the community aspect of everything that I can do if I can make it happen, you know? So I went onto the local Tullamore group on Facebook and I was like, is there any local woodworkers that can help me make a sign? Because I don't want to just order my sign online. Like I want to get something like custom made. And so many people said the men's shed. So I was like, okay, I'll contact the men's shed. And they were so lovely to work with. I just gave them like a brief idea. I told him what the vibe of the place was. It was so lovely because he came back and he was like, oh, I was looking up like what a bard is and like, you know, like what they're about. So I made it like this because of that. And he was really excited and interested about it as well. So when they came back with the sign, it was just like perfect and exactly what I had in my mind.
They did their research, basically.
Yeah, which was really, really nice. Like, yeah, I had many friends come in and help me paint, help me put up the stuff on the walls, help me do everything in here, which was amazing because it was a big project, like from what we had before. But even one of my other friends, Fabian Ragnar, he's a leather worker in the Midlands. And he made custom pins, custom keychains, dice bags, like fully out of leather. Like he painted them and put the logo on them. And they've been flying out this weekend.
Unreal. Like
everyone's been buying them. But again, it's just if I can get anything different and, you know, local in here, I want to.
This extensive collection of games that are stacked behind you, how did you go about collecting them all up? I know you said you're into them yourself, so were these from your own personal collection, or did you go about seeking out these games specifically for here?
Both, yeah, as well. Like, I'd say about 30 or 40 are my own personal collection, and then the other 70 I researched and found online. I tried to find the most popular games, some kind of quirky ones, everything like that. Like, the idea, yeah, was just to have a nice, diverse option so that no matter what type of gamer you are, when you come in here, you'll find something. We have had everyone over the weekend, from the hardcore gamers that is their life, and people that said, I've never played a board game, you know, and it's been really fun to like talk with people and find what they might like and them enjoying the night. So yeah, it's been just like a collecting. And outside of that, some people have given me a couple games. Okay. And I have someone coming in today that's basically given me like their entire collection, which is just so lovely. It's so nice to see so much support. Even a game distributor offered me to just get 15 games from their website. So they're being delivered as well. Wow. And then there's an Irish game maker. He made a game called Dungeons and Naggins, which is normally alcohol based, but it can be played without alcohol. His game is coming in here as well, which will be really cool.
As I said, everything about this just really screams community. Do you think so far, have the community received this space well? Has the feedback been, I'm so happy that you've done this because we did need a space like this?
Yes, very much so. Like the whole time I was setting up, I was a bit panicky. I was like, okay, is it actually just me that wants this? But that's not been the case. Like every person that's came in here has been like, I've been waiting for something like this in Tullamore. I don't want to travel to Galway. I don't want to travel to Dublin because that's what everyone has to do. There's just nothing nerdy locally or, again, just anything different locally. So, yeah, people have just been like, thank you so much for bringing this here, which is really nice to hear. Again, because, you know, because there's nothing like this before, I'm very much the trial run of, can this work here? But I've been very lucky, like, even with the space, like I've been posting videos online since I got the space because I wanted to show a little bit about setting up a small business in Ireland, setting up a small business in the Midlands. I set aside a small amount of money to get it going, and I'm like, you know, if I lose that, I lose it, but it's not detrimental.
And what are your hopes for the place? Do you hope for maybe the space to host the likes of specific events or tournaments, that type of thing?
Yeah, I absolutely would. Again, I'm starting with this 3-day-a-week idea. Friday and Saturday evenings are for adults only because I want that community side of things. And then the Sundays I'm doing for families and groups. So any age can come in on Sunday. But people have already been like, can you open more? Which I would love to, you know, I want to be able to expand to more of the week and everything. But yeah, if I'm going to expand to more of the week, I do want specific nights to come in, as in your D&D night, your Warhammer night, because there's such big communities there that don't have a lot of spaces to meet up, and they do kind of need the whole room like to do that. So yeah, I would love to bring in those. I would love to bring in like Pokemon tournaments and things like that, because again, locally it would be nice to have those. And also Tullamore is just, it's such a good like part of Ireland, as in like it's basically an hour and a half to 2 hours from everywhere, you know, so it would just make sense for more people to be able to come here and everything like that. And even outside of that, I've had people asking, would I consider having stags and hens in here? Yeah. And could I partner with like a local hotel or a local B&B or something, so that people could come in here and then go there for the night. So it's been interesting to see like that people want to actually travel to Tullamore, not just people from Tullamore want to come here, but people want to travel to come here, which is nice.
That was Savanna Jacqueline, owner of Bombshells Pole Studio and now the Bards Rest Games Cafe in Tullamore, and you can find out more about both of her businesses on their respective websites and social media platforms. After this, we'll be exploring a visual art form I've not covered on this show before. Midlands 103. It's Encore on Midlands 103 with Zoe Ryan. Now, from a first for the Midlands to a first for this show, for my last segment tonight, I'm delving into an art form I haven't before on the show, the art of flower arranging, with floral artist Anna Browne of Big Sky Flowers, ahead of her upcoming spatial poetry workshop at Castlepollard Library on June 18th. Anna, thank you for agreeing to speak with me on the subject.
Thanks for having me, Zoe. I'm delighted to be here.
Now, before we get into talking about spatial poetry, tell me a little bit about yourself and how it was that you got into your craft.
So I grew up on the shores of Lough Oul in Westmeath, and we didn't have any television, so I used to read seed catalogues for fun as a teenager. So that kind of gives you a sense of how long I've been doing this. So I've always loved flowers. I did end up working in the tech world for several decades, but I always grew something. And in more recent times, I was looking at flowers as a side hustle. And then, as you do in tech, I got laid off and I thought, that's it, done with the tech now. I'm going to do flowers full time. So with the flowers has come a lot of workshops. And if I look at my life's purpose at this point, it's to help people live more sustainably. So flowers are a big part of that. I don't know if you're aware, but maybe we'll make your listeners aware. So if you buy a supermarket bouquet, generally it's imported unless it says proudly Irish, which is rare enough. It's about 30 kilograms of carbon. So, and that's kind of a number hard to relate to. But a flight from Dublin to London is 90 kilograms.
Right. Okay.
So three bouquets is the same as flying from Dublin to London. And they tell us don't be flying, but they don't say anything about flowers. So there's a lot of flower farmers in Ireland. I'm a member of the Flower Farmers of Ireland, and so people can find probably a flower farmer near them. But it's a really lovely product in that it's flowers connect to our emotions. So, if I give somebody a bouquet, they generally will want to kiss me. So it's very nice. And I've seen workshops, people work with flowers, and it actually changes their perspective on the day. They can come in quite grumpy or tired, and they leave smiling. So flowers are, they're a marvelous way to do that, but they're also really good for pollinators. We think about different forms of farming, and dairy and beef is very serious, and, growing vegetables, that's food. And flowers are seen as a bit frivolous, but actually our pollinators, as we probably are hearing more and more, are essential. And if you're a flower farmer, everything you grow is food for the pollinators. So, you're not going to pick all the flowers in your farm. And so everything that's left is food for pollinators. Plus, if we're thinking about biodiversity, most flower farmers will grow without any chemicals. And we would feed the soil, correspondingly. So we're actually cultivating loads of biodiversity both above ground and below ground. So I think it's a really important kind of farming that we actually haven't paid much attention to. So thank you for the opportunity to come on and talk about it.
Absolutely. And when it comes to art, sometimes the materials that we use, I know we're getting better at making them less toxic, but traditionally a lot of them would have been, as you say, toxic. And to use flowers as your raw material for your art, because let's face it, it's one thing to farm them, but the arranging of flowers, that is an art form in itself.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, a lot of my workshops, I'll just bring a load of flowers and we'll bring some jam jars and people will get to arrange them, and that's an art form itself. But the spatial poetry one, so it's part of a residency. So I've been funded by Creative Westmeath a few times now to do various different things, and this year it's a residency. So I'm basically going around to all the libraries, and the theme of my residency is from seed to vase. So helping people to appreciate flowers, to understand flowers, and to learn how to grow flowers. So I've done various workshops about growing from seed, about gardening for biodiversity, about making your soil healthy. And I also would look at things like no-dig, where you can do a lot in your garden without having to physically exert yourself too much. I'm not in my first flush of youth, so I want to kind of conserve my energy as much as I can and encourage people to do so. So there's lots of ways you can do that without having to go out there and dig piles of dirt out of the ground. So the spatial poetry one in Castlepollard is a particular aspect of that. I have a lot of dried flowers and other botanicals that we use, and we basically create something that's quite tiny. It's very much tactile. It casts a beautiful shadow if you've got it somewhere near sunshine, and it moves with any kind of wind. So they're very beautiful things that hang on your wall. And initially people come in and they see the dried flowers, and then they're not as colourful as the fresh flowers. But after a while you start to really see variations in colour, variations in shape, the particular scent of things like dried lavender or something like that. So people kind of then focus maybe more at a micro level than they would normally. And people always say it's a very mindful thing to do. So, so people go home with something that is very beautiful for their house, a very sustainable end product, and something, when they are tired of it, they can put in their compost bin with any kind of concerns that it might, do harm to anything. But you're right, the art world, a lot of our materials can be something that's maybe not, that's not biodegradable, that's not, necessarily sustainable. So this is definitely one that is a very sustainable material.
And I will admit that when I was looking into the topic of spatial poetry, I had to do a bit of research on it. And there was one description that really caught my eye to describe it, and it was that it transposes the delicate fleeting beauty of blooms into permanent structural structures. So I just thought that was interesting how they were saying that, the life of a flower, it is quite delicate. It's only in its prime for a short period of time, but then you dry them and they can have a second life.
That's right. And I mean, part of the beauty of flowers is they're ephemeral. So you have this thing that, it puts lovely confetti on your table or on your mantelpiece and it's gone, and that's part of it. But yes, the dried ones do have a longer life. And I was inspired. I went to an exhibition in Emma in January of this year, and there's a woman called Cecilia Bacuna. So she had an exhibition where she asked people from Dublin to bring her various different botanicals, and she hung them all from the ceiling in one of the long corridors, and so there was all this beautiful botanicals. So that was kind of the starting point of where I was coming from. Now what we're making is not as enormous as that, and maybe it hasn't the same emotional impact, but it does have, because people are making it themselves. They're not, just looking at somebody else's artwork. They're actually making their own artwork, and they bring it home with them. Any lessons that they learn in terms of sustainability or in terms of, the climate emergency or anything like that, that goes home with them. And every time they look at that beautiful thing, they're reminded of the things they've learned and how maybe they could live more sustainably, and also just appreciate Irish flowers. And while I'm a flower farmer and I sell flowers, I actually want to encourage people to grow their own flowers, because there's nothing better they could do. Lawns are not particularly useful. Unless you're playing football or you're having a picnic, a lawn is actually just a waste of space, I think.
Right.
So, you know, I would encourage people to like get rid of their lawns and put lots of flowers in instead, and, you know, plant fruit bushes and plant trees, and, you know, and even if they have a lawn, not to mow it so much, because there's habitat in an unmowed lawn, but a mowed lawn has no habitat. It's basically a green desert. So, yeah. So hopefully, you know, this is the kind of thing I talk about in my workshops. So, you know, with a sprinkling of this, but also lots of beautiful things as well. And I suppose the messages maybe are easier to digest when you're working with something that's very beautiful.
Well, I know that my mother will definitely share your vision for the grass, because I know that it's an area of contention for her, that it just really brings her unwanted stress that this thing has to be mowed. Whereas she loves flowers. And I know, well, she's going to be listening now and thinking, yeah, actually, this is a great idea. I might just plant loads of flowers. But it's been something that she's been cautioning to do for years, is to do a flower arranging course. Because as you said, it just changes someone's mood. It's a really kind of a slow activity that you do, that you take time, because you have to arrange them, you move them around, you step back and you go, no, that's not just right, maybe you shorten it. So as well as it being something of beauty, and with these workshops, obviously you're educating people about a wider problem with sustainability, it's also just something that's good to just take time for yourself to slow down in the fast-paced world that we live in.
Absolutely. I mean, people very rarely leave the workshop stressed. They generally will leave with, you know, sometimes it's seed saving. That's also very mindful activity. So I would probably spend a lot of time thinking of the activities, instruct them in a way that people actually have, you know, a bit of mental space, a bit of nice time to themselves, and they actually would leave then feeling good about it. And I would give away when you're a gardener, you always have too many plants. So I was in Athlone yesterday, and we had three cases of plants that I was able to give to people, and, you know, I was delighted to see them gone, and they were delighted to take them. So that's also nice. People can leave with something that's, you know, a very significant reminder of the course that they were on. So I actually have, you know, 12 more workshops to do in Westmeath. So I'm on the cusp of doing those. So you mentioned the one in Castlepollard. Mm-hmm. The rest of them aren't scheduled yet. But if people would like to learn about the workshops, if you don't mind me saying this right now.
Yes.
So I have a website, bigskyflowers.ie. So I'm inspired by the boglands of the Midlands. So that's why I call my business Big Sky Flowers, because I'm thinking those big skies that you see, you know, when you're out in Bora Bog or somewhere, and just
the vast landscape.
I love that. I mean, I grew up in the Midlands, and, you know, I've been places like Yosemite, which feel like a big hole in the ground. People say it's very beautiful, but for me, I just love that, the flatlands, and be able to see like long distances. I'm probably not appreciating the beauty of something like Yosemite very well, but it does feel like I'm in a bit of a hole there. So yes. So anyhow, on my website, bigskyflowers.ie, I have a subscribe button. People can find out about the workshops there. I also have an Instagram, Big Sky Flowers, and on Facebook is Big Sky Flowers. So the information will all be there. But the best thing is to subscribe, because you get an email once a month, with a list of all the things that are going on. And it's not just my work. I also work with other artists. There's lots of artists actually working in Mullingar who've been funded by Creative Westmeath, who are doing really interesting work. So maybe I can send you that information after this, and you can share with your listeners the other things that are going on in the Midlands to do with sustainability and art and, you know, all of our beautiful environment.
Absolutely. And as you said, this is just one of the workshops that there's plenty of them that you are doing coming up that are looking at both combining art, sustainability and other themes as well. But for this particular one, the spatial poetry, this isn't the first one that you've done of it. What type of structures have people made at them before?
So I usually bring some branches. So I might bring like contorted hazel or twisty willow, or maybe something with like larch with cones on it. And that's kind of the starting point. So they'll take one of those branches and start to work with that. And people have actually worked very kind of in miniature, which has been interesting, because you can go big if you want to, for sure. And they've made just basically a wall hang that maybe has like, you know, 3 or 5 strands from it. And those strands would have maybe 5 or 6 pieces of botanical material. So, you know, maybe grasses, maybe flowers. And what they've really gotten into is like kind of the subtleties of colour, and how they can have kind of a pink, you know, there's like a little bit of pink in all these, a little bit of green in all these, a little bit of blue in all these. And so they've made them kind of, and it actually was amazing to see people just kind of getting into that. That was in Moat, that one, and people really got into it in terms of just choosing the right materials and making something that, you know, and you'd have to work, you know, you have to kind of work, it's a little bit fiddly, but I use a very fine wire, so it's not as fiddly as it could be. If I was using fishing wire, it would be quite hard to tie it, and if I was using thread, it would be quite hard to tie. So this little kind of very fine gauge wire, actually works really well, and you can sort of wrap it around and it holds. So it's easy to do, which is nice, because you don't want people think they're too hard to do. And, how they compose it is up to them in terms of, I'll provide a little bit of guidance on that. But generally, if they like the way it looks, then it's beautiful to them. So it's beautiful. There's no, external judgment in terms of what they're making.
Yeah. So it's really up to the individual as to what they want to do with the materials that you supply.
Yeah. I mean, they could certainly, put it into some twisty circle and make a wreath, or they could just make lots of little individual hanging things to hang in front of a window. So, I kind of give them a little demonstration and let them take it from there. It's more fun if they get to do it rather than watching me do it.
Yeah.
Would be my philosophy for most workshops. So.
Absolutely. Anna, it's been lovely speaking with you this evening, and thank you for taking my call, and I look forward to seeing the creations that come out of the upcoming workshop.
Well, check them out on Instagram, Big Sky Flowers.
Fantastic. Anna, thank you again.
Thanks, Zoe. Bye.
And if you are looking to take part in any of those workshops at Castlepollard Library, or indeed across any of the Westmeath ones, as Anna said there, you can check it out on her website, but you can also check it on the individual libraries as well. And that particular one, that spatial poetry, is happening in Castlepollard Library on June 18th. And there are still spaces left that can be booked through the library, but please do note that you have to book your spaces, because as Anna says, you can imagine there's limited spaces available and materials and all that. So please do book your space if you are interested through Castlepollard Library. That's all for me tonight. I'll be back with Encore next Thursday, but I'm also on Let's Go Green duties for Aisling O'Rourke this coming Monday, where I'll be looking at a first for the Midlands and a sustainable take on Men's Health Week. Up next is Joe Cooney with Country Roads, bringing the best in Irish and American country music until 10. That's all to come after the news at 8. Until next week, good night.